In an open letter this week, more than 100 international law experts warned that U.S. strikes on Iran violate the UN Charter and may be war crimes. Joining us now, retired Lieutenant Colonel Dan Maurer is among those who signed that open letter. He is a former JAG officer and current associate professor of law at Ohio Northern University. Also with us, retired four-star general and MS Now military analyst Barry McCaffrey. Okay. Daniel, thank you very much thank you both, but Dan, I am so excited you're here because we have been talking all week in the lead up to this about basically what constitutes a war crime and whether the President of the United States, whether the administration, whether our government is threatening war crimes, has done them. I think it's a moment that it has such gravity, but also lots of confusion because it's not as clear cut, right? We have them blowing up this bridge. The United States government says that is a bridge that was used by the military. The president is calling it Power Plant Day and Bridge Day. If it's a power plant or a bridge that is for civilian infrastructure, that's one thing. If it's used by the military, it's another. Is the President of the United States committing, or at the very least, threatening to commit war crimes?
Possibly.
Yeah.
So this area of law is both old, goes back to the Geneva Conventions, if not earlier, and well understood by the military. The fact is, bombing a power plant or bombing a bridge is not necessarily a war crime. In and of itself, it's not a war crime. Generally speaking, civilian infrastructure like bridges, roads, tunnels, power plants, etc., are protected. They're not supposed to be attacked unless they are a legitimate military objective, in which case it has to meet two factors. The first factor is it contributes to the enemy's military advantage. Mm-hmm. The second factor is by destroying it, by attacking it, we get a military advantage. So it may be the case that a civilian power plant is also providing electricity power to the Iranian military in a consistent way, and by destroying it, we knock out a considerable amount of military hardware that provides us an advantage tactically. So that's not necessarily a war crime. However, even if you attack civilian infrastructure because it's, quote, dual use, military and civilian use, attacking it still must be proportional. You can't cause disproportionate collateral harm. That means the anticipated civilian damage, property and people, can't be excessive in relation to the concrete military advantage that you expect to be gaining. And that's entirely in the calculation of the commander that's directing and ordering the strike. Now, for something as complicated and as high risk and high visibility as a power plant, that decision is almost certainly going to be withheld to very high levels of command. Think very senior generals or admirals, if not the Secretary of Defense or the President himself. But the law is well understood by the JAGs who are advising these commanders. And it is entirely a fact-based, case-by-case kind of situation. So by declaring, all bridges are potentially at risk, or targets, or all power plants, that suggests that kind of discrimination, target by target, is not going to happen. That's very problematic and very concerning.
And so then, General, last November, 6 Democratic members of Congress did a video, and these were veterans, folks who served in the military, reminding current service members that they do not and should not follow unlawful orders. And so given what we've been talking about all morning, given the latest social media posts from the president saying that Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, and given what Daniel just said, would this constitute an unlawful order?
Well, you just heard a pretty good, sensible summary of what the law of warfare says about these kind of issues. But I think it'd be a diversion to go talk about the rule of law when we're watching, which by any rational standard is an unhinged President of the United States, putting out messages with F-bombs in them, talking about putting them in hell, making possibly sarcastic comments about Islam. This is pretty nutty stuff. It's also obvious to the Iranians it's a sign of desperation. So he's weakening his ability to back up diplomacy with military power. I've never seen anything like this. I might add, it was interesting that they maintained operational security, which was good on recovering this second down Air Force officer. But I'm astonished at the lack of any visibility by most of the media into the details of what's been done, and then pushing off the explanation until Monday, when presumably there's an enhanced air campaign going after fundamental infrastructure. We are in trouble.
Shelley Blumrose joins us now. She is a retired U.S. Navy commander and a plaintiff challenging Trump's ban on trans service members. Shelley, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you. So you didn't want to retire. I used the word retired there, but that was not your choice.
No, it was not my choice.
How has this reshaped your life?
Oh, it's changed my life dramatically. The military came to me and they said, well, you can retire or we can put you through involuntary separation processing, which would have been a huge risk to my family in particular, who have earned benefits over my 20 years of service. So there was a pension on the line, health care, the GI Bill for my son to go to college, all of those things, and which we just could not afford to lose. So even though I did not want to retire, I had to, so I did.
Shelley, you served for 2 decades.
Yeah.
You're a lawyer. Can you just estimate how much American taxpayers and the military spent educating you and getting you to the point where you were up for promotion to naval captain?
Yeah, let me explain it this way. So you all have paid for me to go to law school. You have paid for me to get a master's degree in environmental law, and you have paid for me to train to go out and support warfighters as a lawyer every year for the past 20 years. So, I don't know, $500,000 more.
So basically a move because of their ideology that is detrimental to force readiness and
Yes.
preparation, and is just a blatant waste of money in the investment that we, the American people, had in you.
And we're talking about like 4,000 transgender service members. So across that population, tens of millions, if not $100 million wasted on training. And all of these people are ready to deploy today. They could be going to Iran. They could be in Iran. We've had transgender.
The room was supposed to be quiet, controlled, disciplined. A routine Sunday strategy meeting, the kind that had happened countless times behind closed doors where decisions shaped not just policy but perception. The long polished table reflected the overhead lights like a mirror, every seat filled with senior officials, advisors, and 3 of the most respected Army generals in the country. Their uniforms carried decades of service, rows of ribbons that told stories no one in the room could fully understand. Donald Trump sat at the head of the table, leaning back slightly, hands folded, his expression somewhere between impatience and expectation. He had already spoken for nearly 20 minutes, going over talking points, questioning decisions, revisiting old disagreements. His voice filled the room, leaving little space for interruption. At first, the generals remained silent. They exchanged brief glances, subtle, almost unnoticeable to anyone not watching closely. But the tension was there. It had been building long before this meeting even began. One of the generals, a 4-star with a reputation for composure under pressure, finally leaned forward. His voice was calm, but firm. He began by addressing the concerns directly, laying out facts, timelines, and the realities on the ground. His words were precise, measured, and backed by years of experience. Trump interrupted almost immediately. "No, that's not what I'm hearing," he said, waving a hand dismissively. "I've got people telling me something completely different." The general paused, choosing his next words carefully. "Sir, with respect, the information we're presenting comes directly from verified sources on the ground." Another interruption, louder this time. "Well, maybe your sources are wrong." A murmur shifted through the room. Advisors shifted in their chairs. Someone coughed quietly, as if trying to break the tension without drawing attention. The second general spoke next. He didn't lean forward. He didn't raise his voice. But there was a sharp edge to his tone that hadn't been there before. He backed up his colleague, reinforcing the same points, adding additional data, clarifying the operational risks. Again, Trump pushed back. "You're overcomplicating it," he said. "This should be simple. We go in, we fix it, and we get out. That's it." The third general, who had been silent until now, finally moved. He placed both hands on the table, slowly, deliberately, as if grounding himself. When he spoke, his voice was quieter than the others, but it carried weight. "Sir, with all due respect, it's not that simple." That sentence changed the atmosphere completely. Trump leaned forward now, no longer relaxed. "Why not?" "Because," the general continued, "real-world operations don't follow simple scripts. There are variables, consequences, and risks that can't be ignored." Trump shook his head. "I think you're making excuses." The first general's jaw tightened. The second looked down briefly, then back up. The third didn't move at all. There was a pause, a long one, and then it started to unravel. The first general spoke again, this time less measured. "Sir, these aren't excuses. These are realities." Trump's voice rose. "No, these are problems you're supposed to solve." "We are solving them," the second general said, now clearly frustrated. "But not by pretending they don't exist." The room felt smaller, the air heavier. No one else dared to speak. Trump stood up slightly from his chair, leaning over the table. "I need solutions, not pushback." The third general finally pushed his chair back. The sound echoed louder than it should have in the tense silence. He stood up, straightening his uniform, his expression no longer restrained. "With respect, sir," he said, "what you're asking for isn't a solution. It's a shortcut. And shortcuts in our line of work get people killed." That was the moment everything broke. Trump stared at him, disbelief flashing across his face. "Are you questioning my judgment?" The general didn't hesitate. "I'm questioning the direction." The second general stood up next, then the first. Three figures now standing, their presence dominating the room in a way that words couldn't. Trump's voice came sharp and fast. "You don't walk into my meeting and talk to me like that." The first general stepped forward slightly. "And you don't dismiss years of experience like it's nothing." The silence that followed was explosive. And then, it happened. Point one of them. No one would later agree on who said it first. Let the words out, raw and unfiltered. F***KU, Donald. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a pen. Another advisor froze completely. Eyes wide, Trump's face turned red, anger and shock colliding in real time. "What did you just say?" But there was no taking it back. The third general shook his head, already turning toward the door. "We're done here." The others followed. No hesitation. No looking back. Their footsteps were steady, deliberate, echoing through the room as they walked out, leaving behind stunned silence and a meeting that had completely collapsed. The door shut behind them with a heavy thud. Inside, no one spoke for several seconds. Trump remained standing, staring at the door, his hands clenched into fists. Everything had changed in a matter of moments.